Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closures.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Shannon Russell, a business coach for women transitioning from unfulfilling 9 to 5 jobs into purpose driven businesses through her Second Act Success platform. She pivoted from a TV production career and a decade long STEM education franchise, where she built partnerships with schools and sold a business in fall of 2024, to now guiding clients via her Second Act Accelerator program to validate ideas, craft offers, and land first clients. Excuse me. With that being said, Shannon, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you, Milan. I'm excited to be chatting with you today.
It's lovely to have you on here. We're going to dive right into the conversation, and I'd love to start with a bit of travel in time. So, before you even had this company, what were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting the project?
Yeah, so I had a 16-year career in television as a producer in New York City and Los Angeles. And then when I began to have a family, I realized that the hours were extremely long and there was a lot of travel. And so I started thinking about what else I could do. And with a 3-year-old and a newborn, I decided to venture into business and opened my first franchise, which was STEM education for kids. So it fit really nicely with my 2 little ones. And I grew and scaled that business to be in the top of the organization. And then I sold that business. And in the interim, while I was running that business, clients of mine or customers of mine started asking me to help them figure out how they can start a business. And so I started coaching on the side. I created a podcast. And then that just kind of led me into Second Act Success coaching, which is what I do now, business coaching for others.
Gotcha. So basically, your clients just started asking questions because obviously you were doing something right.
Yeah. It was just like I was teaching and running this business that was successful in my area. And people would say, "Oh, you must have been a school teacher." And then I'd say, "No, I'm a television producer." And it would spark that conversation. And they'd say, "Can you help me?" So it was very organic. And then I realized there's a need, especially for women who are young moms who are realizing that maybe that career they started doesn't fit into their lives anymore. So I really started focusing on that population.
Absolutely. I absolutely love the fact that this industry and this kind of project, in the past few years, it has really started to boom.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of professionals. Obviously, everybody has a different structure in terms of how you teach those people, how you walk them through the journey. And we're going to figure all of this out in the next couple of minutes. So, going into this part of the podcast, my goal is very clear, and it's just to build some clarity for the audience in terms of who it is currently exactly that you're trying to help out right now, but also what does it feel like to be your client? So, what does the journey look like? Go ahead and tell us all about it.
I want that journey to be like you're sitting with a friend. I've always been told I'm, overly friendly, girl next door, and I want to use that in my business. I want people to come to me because they feel like they're talking with a friend, a trusted friend, someone who's walked that path before them, which I have. And so after, leaving my production career, producing these large television shows, I said, you know what? I can produce a business and building that first business, seeing success, and now being able to help others build theirs. I want them to feel like I'm giving them the wins that I've had and how I've gotten there, and then also helping them avoid the ups and downs and the challenges that I faced. I want to be able to be almost that shortcut for people and hold their hands through it because there's so many times when you're launching a business that it's scary and you feel overwhelmed and it's really easy to go back to what you're comfortable with. And so by holding their hand and really being that accountability partner for them, I can see them get across that finish line and reach their goal, and that is my ultimate hope.
Yeah, I love that. When it comes to the target audience that you're trying to um, get in touch with, it's pretty self-explanatory. It sounds like it's mainly women who are trying to quit the 9 to 5, leverage on their potential, start their own businesses. and everything like that. So when it comes to the journey, one thing that I definitely want to clarify, again, there's a lot of professionals in our industry, and like I said, everybody has a different structure in place. So
Mhm.
when it comes to the different ways that people can actually come in and work with you, what does that journey actually look like through several different stages?
Yeah, because it depends on the stage that that the client comes to me with. So some come with a list of ideas of businesses they want to start, and what I do is I'm certified in an assessment called UMAP, and so I'll sit with those clients, especially at those beginning stages, and we'll do the UMAP assessment, which kind of I always look at it kind of like your North Star. It gives you that idea of what you like and what you don't like. And this way you can keep on that path and not get distracted by the shiny object syndrome and just venture into something else that really isn't right for you. So I really start there and we start researching the different business ideas and kind of narrow down to what really fits them best. And then make that plan, that strategic plan of, are they leaving a job? Are they a stay at home parent? What is their role currently? And can they afford to invest into this business full time or do they need to start on the side? And we kind of just move along in that process there. But I try to really make my work with clients be very personalized to what they're going through because everyone's starting at a different place. And then I also have clients who come to me with a business or a newly found business and they just want help scaling and getting it out there in front of the right clients. And so I can work with them to, kind of look at what they have done already and kind of do an audit and help figure out a new plan moving forward. And I do that even with some men. I just had a call yesterday. I did like a power hour session with a man to go over his business that's already established. So I think, I try to, mainly focus on those women who really need that help because they're, balancing a family or they're kind of feeling like they're alone in making this change. But I'm happy to help anyone who needs help with their business, of course.
Yeah, and especially it sounds like you're really trying to meet the person wherever they're at.
Yeah.
So it really is very personalized and customized. But with that in mind, though, also if you retrospectively look back at all of the people that you already work with, I'm curious, what would you say is the average duration of you really working with a client to really get them from point A to point B and set them up for success in the future?
Well, I have an accelerator program that's like a 3 month group coaching. And basically, at the end of the 3 months, you have your business started. So some clients will stay with me for just 3 months. They get their business started and then they're on their way. Most people will stay for those 3 months and then work with me one on one for another 6 months or so. And then my one on one clients are usually 6 months to a year. I have one particular client who's been a little over a year and a half now because we just meet almost like a maintenance. Like she just wants that accountability partner. Her business is up and running, but she wants help growing it and scaling it. And we just meet and talk, and it's a really nice relationship. So
I
yeah,
love it.
it's really till they feel like they're on their feet, and then I can always just do one-off calls if needed after that as well.
A lot of business owners and entrepreneurs are on a fence of whether they should get into the world of group coaching. We all know there is a lot of benefits to it, though. Like if you look at it from the perspective of the impact, obviously you have the ability to impact a lot of people at the same time if you treat it as a group coaching. But also it makes a lot of sense if you look at it from the lenses of business owner.
Yeah.
Just more scalable model. But really, if there's somebody listening to this podcast right now and they're still on a fence of whether they should do it or not, I'm curious, what was the pivotal moment for you where you decided that you're going to go into that direction?
Well, I wanted to offer that ability for those people who want to talk with others and have kind of a community feel. I think there's one thing to work one on one with someone, but there's something else to be able to be on a call, ask a question, and see that there's other people that have that same question. And oftentimes on the group calls, there'll be women who are starting or already have, existing businesses that are similar, and they can then connect and talk offline and share and help each other. And so I think there's different types of clients, some that want that, and others that are a lot more introverted and just maybe are hesitant and they're still scared and they don't want to be telling multiple people what they're doing in the early stages. But I think group coaching has a huge benefit in just being there with others and brainstorming and also there have been times where two people show up to my group call instead of 25, and then those two people almost have like a one-on-one session. So there's some advantages to that as well, when you just know that everyone's busy and it's whoever shows, and they're the ones who get that extra coaching time.
Yeah. I love the component of just getting that extra support from people because they have different projects, different offers, so maybe they can even end up helping each other, which is beautiful. But also just having that sense of community and something that is just bigger than myself, it
Mhm.
also helps with the educational part of everything, right?
It does.
Because what you do, it's not surface level stuff.
Mhm.
There's a lot of mindset shifting and shifting their perspective. So it can definitely be helpful. Now, Shannon, I also want to talk about what's happening on the back end side of the business, behind the scenes, because obviously, in order for you to succeed, you have to have the ability to get in front of the right people and do it at the right time, same as you teach to your clients. So, what is really happening on the front of your own marketing and maybe specifically lead generation, to make all of this even happen?
Well, I started my business with a podcast. So, around the same time I started taking clients, I launched the Second Act Success podcast. We're about 230 episodes now. And so, with that podcast, I not only do solo episodes, but I interview women who have started a second act, and I interview experts, in different fields. And so, that was a way of really getting that audience from day one, and keeping that audience, because now, if I have someone who's an expert in franchising or whatever it might be, I get people who, oh, I'm interested in that, and then they share that with someone else. And so the podcast has really helped. I wrote a book last year called Start Your Second Act, so that has been really helpful to reach a whole new plethora of people who might not be local to me or know the podcast, and so that's opened me up. And I do a lot of speaking, and I speak around the country, and a lot even in my local community. And then that is what I would say, honestly, is probably the number one closer for me, is when I get in front of someone, have that talk, or be brought into a panel, or some kind of an event where I'm speaking, and then people come up afterwards and they want to connect further. So I feel like just getting out there, as much as we all love being behind our screens, I think getting out there and really having someone get to know you one on one in person, or group one, just really helps, I think, that trust factor. So that has been really, really helpful too. And otherwise, it's just social media. And I do a weekly newsletter that, I'm just really consistent about.
Absolutely. I just feel like when it comes to public speaking and stuff like that, conferences, it's just very powerful,
Yeah.
right? So it's one thing for you to be creating a ton of content and making sure that you stay engaged with the audience and let them even know who you are, what you stand for, what you can do for them. But to see that in public and just be looking straight at you and feeling the vibe, that's something else. So I completely get that. But also, let me ask you this question. Everything that you've mentioned is on the side of organic. And whenever I talk about this, and especially, sources like word of mouth and referrals, we know that this is the best kind of lead that you could possibly get. When you let your work and your results speak for you, that's quite easy to close that deal. But at the same time, there is a lot of frustration about the inconsistency of such sources. So I'm curious, have you also dabbled into other sources, paid advertisement, anything like that to create something maybe more predictable?
I need to. I have not done a ton of ads. I've done, Facebook, Instagram ads here and there, but not very consistently. And I just tend to not get the results that I want to see from those. So I find myself creating different workshops, and I'll do free workshops to get more people on my list, or I, join summits or bundles and get my name out there that way and really just connect with other people. So, no, I haven't. I'm not someone who can speak to ads as much, just because I feel like it's such an investment and you don't know what you're getting in
Yeah.
return. And so that's where I always kind of stumble.
No, I would agree, and I appreciate you being honest about it. From my perspective, this is such a thing where it's quite easy to lose money
Yeah.
and for it not to be a good investment. So, like, you either have to spend the time to actually master it yourself and truly understand how this all works, or you're just better off just hiring somebody who actually done it and they know what the hell they're doing. So,
Yes, for
it's
sure.
as easy as that. So,
Mhm.
but also, th this begs the question, though. Obviously, you're thinking about several different ways. that would allow you to take the business to the next level, grow and scale and impact a lot more people. And we all know that there's a lot of activities that you need to do on a daily basis to make all of this happen. So I'm also curious about how you think about delegation and possibly launching your own internal teams, whether that's for marketing activities, whether that's for sales process, fulfillment side of everything. What is going on that front?
I'm a solopreneur through and through right now. So I did have a VA for a while that was really helpful, but I find that, well, the VA was more for my podcast. And to be honest, with my production background, I really enjoy editing and I enjoy the production of the podcast. So I took that back just simply because I enjoyed it from a creative standpoint. But I do have help when it comes to like writing my book. I have a team to help me market my book and to help me write my book. I hire, like, I have my own business coach. I have a mastermind that I'm a part of. So I invest in myself in that way, but not so much on my internal team because at this point, I like being super hands on and being that point of contact for my clients.
Mhm.
Um, I do also have a side of my business where I work with corporations and I do team building and strategic planning through Lego Serious Play, which is building with Legos. And I bring that into a lot of corporations around the country and in Canada. And I have a team that helps me with those where we go and we facilitate together. So that's really the biggest part is when I do those type of
Yeah.
workshops and events.
I feel like especially if you can just confidently say that I actually enjoy this type of work, then it
Yeah.
works out just fine. But obviously, there is a limit to what we can do just by ourselves. So, do you feel like this is going to change in the future? And would you say that you're going to be more strategic in terms of what you should be focusing on, or would you prefer to actually maybe keep it a little bit smaller, but more sustainable and still running it as a one-woman show?
I think eventually I would love to outsource things like social media and, just the calendar and that kind of stuff. So, absolutely, I'm hoping within the next couple of years to be able to do that. But just if I enjoy it now, like you were saying, like so far, so good. But I'm very aware of when I get to a point where I need to outsource, I'm happy to do so. I'm so quick to tell other people you don't have to do everything, whatever you just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. I just don't take my own advice about that. So,
That's typical, I gotta say.
yeah.
I love it. Now, I'm curious though. Obviously, this is the idea that you have for the future. Maybe in a couple of years, you're gonna end up creating that sort of environment
Yeah.
that actually allows other people joining you, which is very exciting. But when you look at the goals from a short form standpoint, maybe the next 6 to 12 months,
Mhm.
what would you say really are the biggest targets for you, the goals, revenue, milestones that you have set for yourself?
Yeah, I want to get to a point where my calendar is fully booked. So this coming year, that is my goal to really assess how much time I have in my calendar and how I can bring in more one-on-one clients, not even more women into my accelerator program because the accelerator program I'm needed less, right? Like I'm needed twice a month. We do group coaching, and each person gets a one-on-one with me, one-on-one during those 3 months. So I'm needed a little bit less, but I can definitely fill up my one-on-one calendar more. So that is my focus for the next 6 to 12 months is to really scale up that and just get in front of more people and grow that. So I guess that would be my answer.
When you think about reaching that and achieving those goals, out of everything, what would you expect to really become the biggest challenge to make it happen?
Reaching those ideal customers. I mean, I find that for myself, I find that for my clients, it's having a great product, having a great brand, all of those things are great, but if you can't find your ideal client for whatever reason, that's where we all stumble sometimes. So I think that's where I'm going to be putting my focus is really like I was telling you about doing live events and really getting out there. Like I'm starting to do live monthly master classes where people can join me on Zoom and I teach and we do Q&As so you can get to know me better. And I'm hoping that that is a way of bringing in new people and signing more clients. But yeah, it's just I feel like that's just always everyone's number one pain point is just
Yeah.
how can I reach those people and without going the ad route like we discussed and putting thousands of dollars, and hiring an ad agency to do that, um, you know, it's trickier.
Yeah, it is tricky. It can be very tricky. But I want to build on top of this real quick because, again, thank you for the transparency.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people listening to this who are in that position where they have to think about how to communicate effectively. So, with you saying that it is going to be about getting in front of the right people in an effective manner, I'm curious when you look back at all those years that you've been doing this and the changes and pivots that you've made. Is there anything that really stands out that you could call a game changer when it comes to specifically communicating effectively with your target audience?
I think it's becoming more authentic rather than staged when it comes to
Mm.
TikTok or Instagram or even in my emails. Like the more I think any founder, any business owner shares of themselves and their story, that's what resonates with the clients or customers more so than just being perfect and polished and having everything look like it came straight from Canva. Like you want to have it be a little bit more rough and more honest. And I think that is when I took kind of my polished producer television lens off of things and started saying, you know what? That is so edited and perfect and billion-dollar budgets. Like, I'm not. So let me just show up a little bit more and admit when there was a failure and talk about, my clients' wins and just be more real. I think that is when everything started shifting and more people were like, okay, I need to work with you. Like, you're telling me how it really is. You're going to save me that time and that money. And I trust you. That's where that trust factor comes from, I
I
think.
mean, again, this is a character fit, right? Like
Mm,
when you think about the consumer behavior, all of
yeah.
those clients are also looking for that alignment with you as a coach.
Yeah.
It's not easy in itself to just take the step towards that direction and be like, okay, I'm actually going to invest into somebody who's going to teach me and lead me, right? So obviously they're looking, you literally have to speak their language, right? And also do it at the right time. So I would say that anybody struggling with this right now, I would say, Shannon, what you said about the authenticity and just keeping it real, that's a big part of it. But also, a lot of people who you see struggling with this are just not really that clear on what the offer should be and how should I position myself, right?
Yeah.
And this is true regardless of whether we talk about creating content on social media or investing into paid ads. So
Mhm.
unless there is that bigger level of clarity, it doesn't really matter what you're going to do. It's just not going to work. So that's great, good stuff here. I have still so many questions for you, but let me just slowly wrap it up here by asking you my last question. And again, considering you've been running this business for quite some time now, if you could maybe travel back in time and speak to your younger self, maybe at the very beginning of this entrepreneurial journey, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give yourself?
It's the same advice I think I give my clients is to give yourself grace. Know that it's not going to happen overnight. And I think for me as a type A person coming from a successful TV career, I thought, oh, this will be so simple. It'll scale in no time. And it doesn't. And you have to put the work in and keep going even on those days you don't want to go. And because if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to end up going back. And then you're going to have those regrets at the end of the day. So give yourself grace, know that it's a lot of hard work, but that it will eventually pay off and you'll be able to be proud of yourself. And what's more exciting than that as we get older to try new things and be like, gosh, I did that. That was my second act. That was my third act. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, this advice is actually much deeper than what it might seem to some people, because you also made me realize at this point that with you giving yourself grace, it also allows you to become much more consistent with whatever it is that you're doing. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but at the end of the day, the consistency and you just sticking with it, that's what it's going to take. So I absolutely love that. I love to finish on a bit of wisdom. Shannon, at this point, I'm going to say thank you so much for taking the time today, sharing this lovely story with me and the audience. If anybody from the listeners would like to reach out to you, get in touch, possibly even work with you, what is the best way to go about it?
Secondactsuccess.co is my website, and everything's there from how to work with me, free resources. I have free audio classes, all of that. So the website, secondactsuccess.co.
Beautiful. Thank you again. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Milan.
Love it. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, Make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a coach, consultant, or you have an agency, and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from 0 to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.